full council meeting for the triennium on the 25th of September 2025. We'll start with Karakia.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and a very auspicious occasion. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia makinakina, ki uta, ki mataratara, ki tai, e he aka ana ti atakura, he tio, he huka, he ho hu, ti hei, mauri ora.
The first thing I would like to do is we'd like to acknowledge the passing of Sir Tumu te Huehue and Maxine Moana-Tuwhangi. So Maxine was a fellow candidate for Waikato Regional Council who has recently passed away. So I'm going to pass over to Councillor Kneebone to give our acknowledgement.
Tēnā koe te tiamana. O tuatahi aki a ko Maxine, he wahini rangatira, he wahini whaimana. Ina tau te kaumārema ki muri I mahi ia I tēnei kaunihera I te Finance Department. Wai hoki o ia te tiamana o te Waikato Catchment Advisory Committee mō nā tau e rema pia. He nui ngā hua kia puta I tāna mahi hei painga mo ona iwi, mo ona hapori katoa nō reira tēnei mātou o te kaunihera arohi o Waikato. Tēnei te mihi aroha ki ona whānau I te rawa pauri. So just to acknowledge for Maxine, Maxine actually worked in the Finance Department here for a few years before my time, and then she chaired our Waikato Central Catchment Committee as well for about 5 or 6 years, I think. So a long history, a history of contributing to not only the community but to this organisation here as well. Ka hoki ngā whakaro ki te ariki o Ngāti Tūwhare toa, ko tā Tumu te Huehue, tūkino te Tuawaru, nāna I kawe te rama hei arataki I te iwi, nāna I here I ngā wai I rua I te whenua me te tangata hoki kia kia ora ai tātou katoa. Ko rangatira rau atu tōna nākau hihiri mō te taio, he tauira whakahirihira mō tātou katoa nō reira tēnei mātou o te kaunihera arohi o Waikato ka tuku ngā mihi, ka tuku te whakamanawa ki aia mō tōna kaha, mō tōna nākau nui ki ona iwi, ki tau Māori, ki tau whānui hoki. Ka hoki ngā whakaro ki tōna horangatira ko Lady Susan me ona whānau. Nō reira, e te rangatira te pau o te pau heranga o Ngāti Tūwhare toa, moi mai rā.
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Kneebone. All right, health and safety statement. We do have the audience. No.
Apologies. Marina Koto, obviously I needed to clean my glasses a bit further this morning because I can't see the other end of the room. So just to summarise for you the health and safety statement, in the event of an emergency, please follow the directions of staff. The fire escape is through the 2 main chamber doors. Fire exit onto the footpath to your right, and please use the crossing to assemble in the park across the road, being mindful of the traffic. If any other events occur, please just follow the directions of staff. And for anyone who hasn't been here before, the bathrooms are through the main chamber door, just down the hallway a little bit and to your left. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Democracy Dave. Apologies. We do have an apology from Councillor Hodge. Any other apologies? Nope.
I think we've
I've
got
got
one
it.
from Tipper too. I think Tipper's gone down to Tipper.
Oh, has
She's not
she?
online, is she?
No.
Yeah, no, I think she told me so.
Okay, so we've got apologies from Councillor Hodge and Councillor Mahuta. I've got a mover and Councillor Downard, sorry? Yes. So I've got a mover and Councillor Downard, a second in Councillor Hughes. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, confirmation of the agenda. Now we have had changes, so just gonna let our chief executive.
Okay, Madam Chair, if I can just take a moment before moving something. I'd just like to acknowledge the Chief Executive's work on a notice of motion that I submitted 2 weeks ago with the support of the majority of the council, if not all. I take my hat off to the Chief Executive for undertaking the due diligence that he has done and has preempted the need for this notice of motion to proceed. And as a result of that, I seek to withdraw the notice of motion in the public excluded section. Thank you.
Right.
And so if I can just confirm that I have asked staff to work with lawyers to withdraw our section 274 party appeal against the Bucklands development.
Great. All right. Anything else we need to note in the agenda? No. Have I got a mover? Councillor Nicol. Second in Councillor Smith. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Disclosures of interest, any additional disclosures, new disclosures, anything that's not on the list already or in relation to a particular item before the committee, or sorry, the council today? Nope. Okay, we'll now move on to the minutes. We've got confirmation of the council minutes from the 28th of August, 2025. Now, in relation to that, just the, at the August council meeting, we had a delegation from Plug, and there was a brief discussion, though we did not note an action point. There was a brief discussion around requesting staff to investigate the some of the suggestions around
If I could help you, Madam Chair. The request was that that council would consider where there's utility providers of and have had water take consents when they're up for replacement, that they be considered for a non-notified controlled type of activity status.
Sure.
Of course, that would require a plan change to be able to do that. Just so you're aware, I have passed that on to staff to consider it in the current freshwater policy review. But of course, there can be no plan change for at least before the end of December 2026 under the current legislation.
Okay.
But happy if council would want a report to come to the new council to explain, have a response to the deputation in process.
And just to clarify, I was out of the room talking to the Plug representation and didn't hear the request from the chair that was there any interest in doing such, and had I been in the room I would have asked for that, so I'm asking now so that at least it can be considered. Thank you.
Just also to note, Madam Chair, that I did ask the question of Vaughan Payne Waikato Water's done well, who said he would be delighted to have that plan change.
So we're going to just note an action point to come back to future council on that matter. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no,
Councillor
and just a
Marr.
matter of clarity, are we going to receive the minutes individually from the different committees? Because I would like to speak to the Harry Golf Forum ones. If we're not going to do them in bulk. or if-
We can, I do have a separate item for the, we do the Hauraki Golf Forum separate, so I'll make sure that we come to you for a comment. All right. Okay, so we've noted the addition of the action point in regards to the 28th of August, 2025. Do I have a mover that those are true and correct record? Councillor Smith and second in Councillor Dunbar Smith. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. How do you want to work through these?
Start by reading them all out, shall I?
Let's do that.
Good morning. Most of you will be familiar with this, as previous to the last few meetings, we have been bulk receiving and confirming the minutes. For clarity, I will very quickly run through the minutes that are before us and then hand back to the chair. So we are seeking for the following minutes to be confirmed as a correct record, being the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting held on the 21st of August, the Finance and Services Committee, both the open and public excluded minutes from the 3rd of September 2025, the Submissions Subcommittee from the 16th of September 2025, and the Integrated Catchment Management Committee from the 18th of September 2025. We are also looking to receive the minutes from the Tarrant Regional Council Co-Governance Committee from the 1st of September, the Regional Transport Committee from the 8th of September, the Waiora Co-Governance Committee from the 9th of September, Te Nihi Nui Co-Governance Forum from the 9th of September, the Future Proof Implementation Committee, both open and public excluded minutes from the 12th of September, and the Risk and Assurance Committee, open and public excluded minutes from the 17th of September. I will remind you that as part of this parcel, the Future Proof Public Transport Committee delegations have been returned to council with the disbanding of that committee, and the confirmation and receipt of these minutes in no way means that we are adopting any of the recommendations for council. Those will be dealt with after this item.
Can I ask a clarification, please?
Sure.
Because you've mentioned the
Councillor
Risk
Smith.
and Assurance Committee minutes. They're not listed in the agenda. So how do we go with the public notification of the agenda, not included those minutes?
The Risk and Assurance Committee and minutes were published in the addendum on Monday, and those have also been publicly available on our website since then. So they meet the statutory requirements for notification.
It's good to have
Madam
that
Chair, does that
clarification.
also include the submissions subcommittee?
Yes,
Were they
that's
in the
right.
addendum?
The
Okay.
addendum contained the minutes from the meetings held last week, which were, from the top of my head, submissions, risk and assurance, and integrated catchment.
Thank you.
All right. Do I have a mover for those? Councillor Clarkson, a second, and Councillor Downard. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. All right. We're doing the Golf Forum. Councillor Marr.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. As you will have picked up in the minutes, we did have a presentation with Minister Potaka. Just a couple of things, questions that were raised with the Minister. So the Harry Golf Marine Park Protection Bill and the passage of that, it has been delayed and delayed and delayed for those that have been following it. The latest that we have heard is that it should be heard in the second week of October. But yeah, again, depending on obviously central government timetables. Predator-free 2050, the board has been disestablished. The minister did confirm that those projects that have been financed will continue, even though with the disestablishment of that board. And then also during that meeting, we also renewed our administration authority, which is held with Auckland City Council, and also our governance statement. And we are also now proceeding to advertise for a new executive officer. So just wanted to let council members know about those items. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Dunbar-Smith, did you have a
no.
question? No. All good? All right. We've got a mover, no questions? We've got a mover and Councillor Marr, second and Councillor Cookson. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. So now we'll move to item 7.2. This is our health and safety. Nope.
We've got recommendations.
Oh, recommendations. Sorry. Apologies. So this is on, so this is, sorry, recommendations from the Finance and Services Committee of the 3rd of September in relation to budget carryovers and adjustments. Councillor Hughes, did you want to speak to these recommendations?
Yes, I can, Councillor. Yeah. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to speak to those. As recommended by the Finance Committee, as put to us by the staff, the committee accepted that they were all appropriate carryovers from the previous year. The surplus, as per reported at the last meeting, is still in place. Janine confirms that the audit's 2 weeks completed. We're into the 3rd week now, and nothing major has been raised at this point in time. And at the Audit and Risk Committee, there was an agreement that we've deferred adoption of the annual report until after the swearing into the new council. So that'll be the meeting of the 9th of November or December. The audit cannot be completed in time for this committee council to approve. So that's probably it. The only other thing is that there's been a change to our borrowing security. We're now going on a commercial basis. The Finance Committee approved the signing of a debenture trust deed, which is the way normal borrowing is conducted in a commercial environment. That's more efficient. It will save legal fees, and it had the unanimous support of the Finance and Services Committee.
Right. So in relation to this recommendation, though, you happy to move this recommendation?
Absolutely happy to move that, Madam Chair.
All right. I know I've got a second and Councillor Strange. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Next one. Risk and assurance. Who would like to speak to this one? You want to speak to this one again, Councillor Hughes?
I'm happy to speak to that, Madam Chair. The only major item I've already covered under Finance and Services. I probably should have left it, but it really, I'm not going to restate the obvious. But other than that, we had a very good meeting, and Jen might care to comment on it as well. And it was general comments after the meeting that they felt the committee had functioned very well. There were a number of issues that were raised. And there will be some work for the new committee to carry on with in the new triennium when it's formed. So I've really got nothing else to add for risk and assurance. Jen might care to comment.
All good.
Thank you. So happy to.
So I've got a mover in Councillor Hughes, a second in Councillor Nicol. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now we move to the health and safety report. So this is item 7.2 on page 102 of your agendas. And we have Dylan Harris presenting the report instead of Stu Brown, who's away. So welcome, Dylan.
Sure.
Nice.
Yes, Stu is away on a well-deserved break at the moment, as is Marie. So getting the opportunity to come and speak to you guys around our report. So I'm happy to take the report as read, but a couple of things I'd like to point out for it. So our national event focus for this month was around a fatality on the roads last year in June. So it's just come through the courts now in terms of a 37-year-old seasonal worker from the small island nation, Kiribati, that was killed during a crash down in Blenheim. So 5 others were injured in that crash, and through that investigation, it was found that the driver of the truck that went into the back of their van had been on his phone, had failed to brake, so it was a full speed collision, and had a history of similar offences, both in his truck and in his private vehicle. So a really great reminder and a good learning nationally around the importance of paying attention when we're driving in our vehicles, and also our PCBU requirements around ensuring that it's very clear to our staff around what is expected of them when they're driving our vehicles. So one point of clarification we will take out of this is we do say in here, prohibiting the use of cell phones. Clarification to make there is prohibiting the handling of cell phones. So all of our vehicles are set up around hands-free systems, and our vehicle policy is quite clear around the different options around the use of phones in the vehicle. So pulling over, delaying that call till later, things like that, and obviously setting up our hands-free systems before we go. But it's a great opportunity given we've just reviewed our vehicle policy as well through our property and fleet team around how we use our vehicles, our cell phones when doing that. The second point is just around our assurance programs. So we're still on track with our Tier 1 and 2 governance leadership walkarounds. I was actually lucky enough to go out earlier this month with Greg Ryan into Ōrākei Karako around our geothermal risk and see how he operates in that space, but also ask some really great questions of the people who do that work for us. And I think it was quite eye-opening for both of us in our car conversations back and forth around how we can take learnings from different directorates, tie them into our work as well. On a wider assurance basis too, we're still on top of our event reviews and really starting to build that into the training programs that are supplied to our managers, as well as the coaching we do with them in that space. We've also had a number of sort of risk-specific assurance activities, both around traffic management on some of our sites. So we've had Te Aroha and Paeroa as well. We're looking into that space, as well as here at Ward Street around hazardous substances as well. So some of the councillors may have seen us, I think it was last month, downstairs, a lot of high-vis, looking at our hazardous substances storage for flammables on the site. So we're currently undergoing a certification for the site around our thresholds. So those are going well in that space. And then just around some of our lead indicators, we're looking at how we can pull more of those dashboards together to create a bit more visibility in those spaces around how those assurance activities are feeding back into our things like our management system. So yeah, really great work happening in that space. But welcome to any questions. Yeah.
Great, thank you for that. Councillor Nicol.
Thanks very much for the report. It was good in the Risk and Assurance Committee to receive the detail on the Safe Plus audit. Just wanted to comment, it'd be good to see how we might do the high level in this as things progress, to see how many things have been closed out and when. And with there was a bit of focus on the extension of the walkarounds to the senior leadership team. So I wonder whether this being a monthly report, it might make sense to move away from the annual data on the walkarounds, but more towards monthly and maybe a tiny bit more depth. As a suggestion, but that is all for the new council.
True.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Marr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, Dylan, just a couple of quick questions, and I'm not sure whether you will have the detail, but with the EAP services, we note 70 individuals used it. Is that 70 different individuals, or do we track perhaps, just 3 or 4 of them coming back and using it more than once? Do we actually track that?
Yeah, I need to confirm how that data is set up in terms of if it's by application or by request or by person. Yeah, we can definitely come back to you on exactly how that data is broken down.
Okay, and the other one I had, I noticed some of the reports we've seen over the last couple of years has been eye strain, and that seems to have gone off. So that's obviously ended an issue that has ended.
Yeah, I think it's an ongoing issue that we'll always manage around ergonomics in particular, and I think building that into things like our ergonomic assessments that Nawa and myself do around the site as well. It can be quite personal around the different parts of the office. We've obviously got hush lighting zones as well. We've just done a move of 2 of our sections swapping over, so there's been a bit of an adjustment phase there. Even for myself, sitting by some of the windows, learning what's available to us, and I think part of that conversation is connecting the workers with, hey, we do have some of these blinds that we can drop down. We have a vision policy around getting our eyes tested and whatnot as well. So yeah, it's working with those individual employees around that. And getting people to report things as well, because I think sometimes we can see a lot of rumours coming around the organisation of, oh yeah, no, the lighting in this area is not particularly well, but if that's reported through Danster, then we investigate that and see what we can.
Okay, no, thanks for that feedback. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Any other, Councillor Dunbar
Oh,
Smith?
does the eye testing apply to councillors as well?
Oh, I'd have to come back to you on that one. Yeah. Pretty good for the new council inductions.
After, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of pages of
yeah.
reading over a triennium. I know my prescription has changed over the last 6 years, that's for sure. All right, any other questions for Dylan? All right, so we'll just make note of that suggestion and also come back with that additional insight on the EAP services. That's great.
Perfect.
All right. Okay. I've got a mover and Councillor Marr, seconding Councillor Cookson. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. So now we're going to move to item 7.3. This is on page 110. Of course, this has been a long time coming. Long time coming. So we have Bruce McAuliffe and Chris to talk to us about the hearing panel recommendations on the proposed Waikato Regional Council plan. Now, this has been workshopped previously, so councillors are familiar with what has come out of the panel in regards to recommendations, but I'll turn it over to you, Bruce, to take us through what you would like to take us through.
Okay, thank you, Chair. This report's a culmination of 2 years of hard work by the coastal policy staff and by the hearings panel on the proposed coastal plan submissions. So we bring today for your adoption as decisions the recommendations of the hearings panel, independent hearings panel, as attached to the report. And I know it's very lengthy and very long, but that's their full report, including the reasons.
Hence the eye strain.
Yeah. We have had the report independently legally reviewed. There are no matters that were identified that have any legal risks that would prevent council from notifying adopting the report. And staff have also done an analysis and identified some minor issues for correction, which we've had checked legally and can be done under clause 16(2) of the RMA. So it's all in order. The report's all there for your consideration. And yeah, the staff and the hearings panel have done a tremendous job and have worked very hard to get to this point. So
Yes. Huge amount of effort.
yeah.
Huge amount of hours.
Yeah.
Lots of engagements. And I
Yeah.
really do commend
Yeah.
those who have gotten us to this point. Councillor Clarkson.
Yeah, thanks for the report. On page 114, I just wondered if you could give us a bit of flavour around the top bullet point on that page in terms of the recommended changes. I did try to fight my way through the full document, but I had trouble sort of getting to the right place. So can you just give us a sense or a bit of flavour on what those changes were?
Sorry, page 114 in the council report.
Yes, that's right. And the very top bullet point, which says the panel has recommended several changes to the provisions to better recognise the coastal environment and give better effect to the NZCPS.
I'll hand over to Chris to answer the specifics of the question, Councillor.
Kia ora, good morning. Thank you. This particular matter is a it's a theme that went through many parts of the hearings, just around, although it is a regional coastal plan and only has rules that cover the wet part of the sea.
Yeah.
There are certain policies that can provide direction within the inland, within the coastal part of the terrestrial environment. So the hearings panel, they just tried to line them up so they were consistent across the document, as certain chapters, as notified, were a little bit unaligned.
So was it making a better connection with the coastal zone as in relation to the marine system? Because the plan starts with the water, but in the NZPCN, CPS, the definition of coastal is way broader. Is that what that is getting at, is it?
Yes, but the coastal policy statement deals with the coastal environment, which includes the coastal part of the land.
Yeah.
Whereas this regional coastal plan really only governs Takatai Moana, foreshore and seabed matters. And we don't want to inappropriately address things in the coastal plan that are better addressed in district plans or in the review of our freshwater plan.
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you. And just following on from that, if I might, the section directly below that, the Ecosystems and Indigenous Biodiversity chapter is recommended to set out the appropriate objectives and policies that apply coastal-wide in the coastal-wide section. Is that entirely within the water?
Yes.
And so the vegetation management being referred to is presumably mangroves? Or kelp beds? I hope you're not controlling the kelp beds.
Mangroves, salt marsh, and exotic vegetation.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. That's all I needed to know. Just get it straight in my own mind. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It did highlight, didn't it, Warren, some of the challenges within the legislation of where those interactions between the coastal environment and the coastal environment directed, and we ideally have liked to do in some situations, but the reality of
Yeah, just following up on that, and we did have a number of submissions that spoke to further up and further into the harbours, further up the rivers and estuaries and stuff like that. So I was trying to take into account some of those.
Yeah, because the real question is, when will the full coastal zone be accommodated in a plan? It's the real question.
And if I could just add, Madam Chair, so once again, thank you very much to all the staff and that, and all the effort that's gone in over quite a number of years. Hasn't just been the last few. And I think we had a really robust process, and it's great to see it finally at the stage to pass through council and get out there and be notified. And thank you to those councillors that did reach out to me and question that I was happy for my reading of it where we'd landed. So I appreciate them making the effort to come out and work that out. So thank you.
Nice. Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Yeah, I just wanted you to comment on appears to be a tightening of restrictions around aquaculture outside of Wilson's Bay, and also in relation to scientific trials. Move from controlled to restricted discretionary. Page 115.
Yes, councillors Kneebone and Meha will know far more about this than me, but there were issues, submitters raised issues that the controlled activity status didn't contain enough restrictions to prevent trials occurring in sensitive areas, areas where they wouldn't be appropriate. Restricted discretionary is still easier than full discretionary, and the industry know how that works. I'm expecting a lot of the aquaculture provisions to be appealed by the industry.
that pretty much sums it up. We I think from memory, Warren, the term trials could cover such a broad array of things, we just felt that it should be appropriate because it's restricted discretion to the
Yeah,
things that
it's an
the trial could
exception,
impact.
yeah.
That I forgot what your other question was now.
No, that was it.
Oh,
And then the second question is in page 113, if you'd just like to comment, panel has recommended controls on fishing methods, particularly dredging, bottom trawling, dana seining outside identified benthic areas. Just if you'd like to comment on that at all, that's all.
It's a big issue. It's a new matter. I can say without any doubt, this will probably attract the most number of appeals on the plan. It's yep, it's definitely clear from the ecological evidence that these fishing methods are having an impact on the ecological value of the Hauraki Gulf. The provisions, the map that was adopted is the same as one of the options for the MPI fisheries proposed restrictions under the fisheries plan. And yep, it's new waters for us, both existing fishing restrictions in regional coastal plans, Northland, well, Bay of Plenty, sorry, 3 actually, and Tasman. They were all inserted during the appeal process by the court, not by the hearings panel. So it will be interesting to see how this plays out going through the appeals.
Yeah, and I know that item 35, any submitter may appeal the council's decision. So I just wanted to thank our councillors for the work they've done on this. But we passed today. We're not at the end of the process yet, I presume.
Nope. There's far more to go.
Yeah, just picking up on
You're gonna
your-
love an RMA process,
Yeah.
eh?
Just picking up on your earlier point, Ben, that that obviously you'll be aware that a lot of those or all of those aquaculture farms, et cetera, have had their consents extended right out up to 30 years. So yeah, basically that overrides some of that. And we did look at the scientific trials and stuff like that, having the possibility to have as much impact as a existing farm. Hence the tightening around regulations. Was it information submitted on that type of thing? So
Great. Hey, thank you very much for that. Yes, go ahead.
Look, really trivial and but nerdy, but I found a couple of typos just accidentally yesterday. Can you guys do that after we've approved today, or do we have to do it now?
Yes.
Yeah. I thought you could.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Okay, I'll show them to you later.
Great.
Oh,
Just
microphone.
ask a question, and I'm not
Mhm.
trying to deliberately exclude someone, but because of the involvement of the two councillors as commissioners, are they standing aside from the vote? I just don't want anybody challenging the decision should you be involved, that's all.
Yep. Right.
Second.
Right, we've got a mover in Councillor Smith and a second in Councillor Dunbar Smith. Just before I put the motion, though, do want to acknowledge the hearing panel as a whole. We had our independent chairperson and Greg Hill. We had Vicki Morrison Shaw and Hugh. How do you say Hugh's last name? Leo Snyder. But also would like to specifically acknowledge Councillor Marr and Councillor Kneebone. These hearing processes can be long and at times tedious, and there is extensive reading and extensive expertise that goes into contributing to what we hope is a fantastic document that now doesn't descend into years and years of appeal processes. Because it is interesting when you think about how long, how much preparation, how much workshopping, how much engagement with the community goes into getting a document to this point, and yet we are still not finished. But I do want to really acknowledge Councillor Nibona and Councillor Marr for your efforts in this space. So,
First, they haven't delivered as a PC1, have they?
shh, shh. All right, we've got a mover and a second. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Motion passed.
Thanks, council, for the support. Greg will be very happy,
Yes. Outstanding. Okay, we're going to skip ahead to item 7.5, just because we don't have one of the externals available for 7.4. So we'll move to item 7.5. This is on page 158, the Regional Economic Development Strategy. If we, sorry,
Excuse me,
did I
Madam Chair.
skip ahead too quickly? Okay, yep, we can do that. We can do that. We'll move forward then to item 7.6, the Strategic Direction Progress Reports. Am I on the right page? 163. 163.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, councillors. Very pleased to present this report. This is the final assessment of our 3 years against our strategic goals. You will be very familiar that our goals are long-term and milestones toward even longer-term goals. Congratulations on achieving one of them, for example, today with your coastal plan. That started 10 years ago, and you might well have another 2 years with appeals. But today is a really important milestone along the way, and that's the long-term, far-reaching nature of the work the Regional Council does. If we could move on, please, Dave. So we adopted the strategic direction in March 2023 with 6 goals. They're up there: water, biodiversity, coastal and marine sustainable development infrastructure, community connections, and transition to a low emissions economy. In the report, we have done an assessment starting on page 3 of this report. I'm not sure what it is in your agenda. And it shows you have made excellent progress against the goals you set yourself at the beginning of the term. Just wanted to point out, for example, in the water priority, with your water security strategy achieved and now in the implementation phase, I think you can take great pride in the partnership work for leveraging investment in the catchment and river restoration work. New fencing over this period, for example, 534 kilometres, 303 kilometres of streambank fencing. Just shy of 2 million native plants have been planted in steep erosion-prone areas. You've got 3,778 hectares of land retired. And the other thing we've got, as you know, you've had reports from stakeholders who really value the support and the funding to help them achieve these outcomes. Biodiversity and biosecurity. In response to your community, you increased funding, and now you have more than 60 biodiversity groups involved in conservation projects and restoring biodiversity across our region. More than 70 coastal areas are supported to improve our dunes. And for every $1 you've invested, you get $3 to $5 returned in biodiversity enhancements. Coastal and marine, well, again, congratulations, big milestone. The goal was to actually develop that forward-facing coastal plan with your communities. There were other goals with respect to understanding sensitive coastal environments, and you have the most extraordinary research project underway to understand what happens from the mountains to the sea and how can we protect and enhance those areas for future generations. Sustainable development and infrastructure. This has been a huge area, as you know, thanks also to the funding from the government to help with the infrastructure projects. The infrastructure strategy that you adopted was actually recognized by audit as being one of the best they'd seen because it outlined the issues so well, but also looked forward 50 years to how to address these over the long term. Transport, some fantastic statistics, and that's in our community connections. And I was struck by the Meteor, that new service was put on in 2023. And what was the figure? Something like 1.27 million trips in 2 years. That is actually meeting the goal you set yourself at the beginning. And then the transition to low emissions economy. We had a number of goals in there, and this will be ongoing. It's about bringing communities together. But where we can affect change, we have, and we have done very well with actually creating the framework for how we can enhance biodiversity, leverage biodiversity credits and carbon trading, but also support others to understand how we can do that across our region. Meantime, we continue to manage what we can manage by reducing our emissions across all our corporate services and our activities. Also included in the report, the Chief Executive's KPIs. Now, these were the goals that you set through your Chief Executive for the organization to achieve year on year to contribute to these goals. These cover both the strategic priorities and also the corporate activities along our corporate systems, the way that we work together, our corporate culture, and as reporting to Finance and Business Services has shown, all those measures have shown improvement. Excellence, innovation, and Te Māori. Customer has been largely unchanged, but that did have a big uptick very early on. And we are continuing to work on culture, which perhaps needs another boost. Would you mind moving on, please, Dave? And the next one, please. So just to wrap up, one of the KPIs you set the Chief Executive was to have an independent review of our corporate services. How well are we performing as an organization? And there was a lot of feedback on that, but I've just pulled out the one about your strategy. And it said strategic priorities are well articulated, clear goals throughout the reports and key documents, ensuring good alignment of strategy with activities. But, and this is the but that we're all very familiar with, there are too many transactional goals, measures. That was the let's respond to Lagoimas within the time frame. Too transactional. Let's have more stretch. And also, we've all commented on the challenge of actually tracking progress because we don't have very clear milestones. So, next slide, please. Dave. This is our opportunity for improvement in the next strategic direction, certainly an area of focus where we will get really crisp on our goal setting. And we will also look to increase our opportunities for sitting with Council to track progress and adjust where necessary. So just quickly stepping through what that will look like. We'll start the new strategic direction with the new Council early or late October, early November, and that will take us through to March 26. Now, it's important that we can reach a position to adopt by then because we start planning the next LTP about that time. And as you're familiar with, the strategic direction informs what we are going to fund through the LTP. The greater specificity in goal setting, getting a single source of progress reporting based on those agreed milestones. And then to help inform these strategic discussions, we have recently updated the Waikato Trends and Opportunities report, which is due for publication. And Dave has some draft copies here that you're very welcome to review, take away and provide feedback for, so that we can have that ready for the new council in a few weeks' time. Final slide, please, Dave. Thank you. Here's the timeline. I hope you can see that. So we started looking at the issues and opportunities for the region within the global context in June. We spoke with focus groups, subject matter experts, and had a stakeholder workshop. And we've got this draft report now ready for your consideration. Interested in your feedback on the 5 scheduled workshops for strategic development. So the first one would be a scene setter, the context setting based on the evidence and opportunities report. Then we can start thinking about the visioning, like what do you want for that 50-year horizon and what would we do to step back? Thinking about our issues and opportunities further there and priorities that will come through from 14 different people who will have different views, and you'll have areas where you align, and this is our opportunity to have those conversations. Third workshop will actually be looking at, well, what are our trade-offs and our priorities so that we can start shaping up the strategic direction. We'll come back, we'll review, we'll stress test, and we'll give ourselves some real exercise with the SMART goals, because this area has to be our area of improvement. And then there'll be a 5th workshop should we need time to refine the work. So that's the plan, and thank you. And again, thank you for your support for the past 3 years, and welcome comment.
Thank you so much for that comprehensive report and reminder to Council on how much progress we have made over the last 3 years. All right, I've got Councillor Nicol, Hughes, Strange, and Smith. Councillor Nicol.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Karen. I totally agree in that we've made great progress. And I learned probably only 18 months ago so that not every council has this strategy-led work stream and budgeting process. And so I've come to appreciate it much more, not as ad hoc and not as reactive as some. So I have gotten through the process twice now and learned something each time, and have communicated with you my reflections, which I can see and in there, which I really appreciate. Some of which were, getting more specific on the goals, because while some might be marked as achieved here, I don't feel they're achieved based on what I thought, but then I'm very aware of there are 14 and we didn't write it down specific enough. So if we get more specific in future, that'd be really cool, because it stops the different expectations really stretching the staff in different ways, right? And then also one was about having the councillors a lot closer to the strategy along the way, consciously checking in if we're moving at the right pace for what we were thinking. And also the fact that we're in a really fast changing world, and my challenge is how the council might adapt itself to adjust its strategic direction enough throughout the 3 years before you set a new one. Because I've noticed through my participation in risk and assurance, new things have come up like AI, trust in institutions. I would these days make a strategic rock of its own to get councils and local government in general performing better. But that's perhaps an opportunity for future. And just great progress. And it looks like you're on a slightly adjusted new process going forward. So best of luck to the new council.
Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair. Karen, thanks for your report. It's very informative and educational. Thank you. Couple of questions. You mentioned a $1 invested, we get a $4 to $5 return. I'd like to see something to support that analysis, if I may, please, if you could send that through to me. The reason I'm asking that is that early on in the triennium, I went to a project which we were working on up in the Thames estuary, where there was been party to the creation of a bird sanctuary. And I think it was Grant who was in charge of that, the project manager, and he told me at the time that this project is delivering $100 million worth of
economic value to the region through the ability of these birds to be able to breed. And so I asked for a copy of the report, and I'm still waiting.
Okay.
Jelly beach. Thanks, Robbie. So, look, I'm interested in these things because if it's true, and I'm not saying it's not true, that's a major asset which is of value to the region, and I think we should be, promoting that as such. That the regional council's been responsible for creation of such. And my second point is that I'm aware that regional council's got blocks of dirt around the region, some of which are regenerating, some of which have been harvested. And I don't know whether you're aware of their current status, but I'd like to make sure that those areas that we do control are fully planted as quickly as possible, and that they are registered with the powers that be, so that we can claim carbon credits on those particular plantings, because there's value in that on both to the regional council and also to our ratepayers. So I just want to make sure that we're maximising those opportunities. I don't know who's responsible for it, but I'm passing it across to you to follow up.
I'm smiling, Councillor Hughes, because thank you. We do have the framework to guide that. We've actually registered for the ETS. We're also looking at biodiversity credits, and we're very excited about the opportunities. We've mapped all of regional council's land so that we know where these opportunities lie.
Excellent, thank you.
Councillor Strange.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Karen, for the report as well. Really excited by the stats that you shared around, the progress that we have made over the last 3 years. And it's always exciting to see that strategy played out in the short term, but keeping that long term in mind as well. Fantastic results in the public transport with the Meteor. In the next triennium, the Rotatuna Express will be another fantastic way to show that increased patronage, accelerated as well. I think it's really important, along with the strategy, that we have really ambitious goals. And I was wondering, we do track KPIs, which tend to be quite short-term focused. I was wondering about SPIs as well, so strategic performance indicators, that visionary, that long-term focused, sort of monitoring the intent of the direction, which would complement the KPIs as well. I believe that that's really important, so we're not just trapped into short-term thinking, but that we are looking long-term strategically as well. So, which a lot of our planning documents are within transport mostly. We have the 3-year, but 10-year and 30-year plans. So, just wondering about development of SPIs.
Thank you, Councillor Strange. That's indeed the intention, and we have staff a meeting on Friday to start workshopping that. And we're looking at this planning horizon being out to 2075, so 50 years, and then bringing it back.
Fantastic. Thanks for raising that, Councillor Strange, because of course we are here as a way to facilitate the future planning for generations to come, not just for the next 3 years. Well done, raising that. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Karen. And look, I sense your passion in this area of the business. But one of the things that concerns me from the experience coming in 3 years ago was that this pre-work had obviously been done, and it left me with a sense of predetermination and corralling council into a very narrow way forward. Whether that was intentional or not, I don't want to go there. But the reality is, this is council's strategic direction, and it's something that, and I don't want to campaign here, but it's something as Councillor Story will know that I've been saying on the campaign trail, is that this is a critical piece of work for the incoming council. So councillors, we really need to understand, because throughout this last 3 years, we've had comments that that's not what we intended from our strategic direction. Therefore, it's incumbent on us, if we are back, and for those who are here, to actually understand what they want and the direction that they want to take council, and be visionary out to that horizon, 30, 50 years, whatever. And if we do something that's not what we intended, that's our fault. It's not the staff's fault. We didn't give them the direction. So I really urge you, because this is the critical piece of work that council sets itself up to go for the next 3 years. And I think that's not well understood. Certainly wasn't well understood on the campaign trail. So I just urge you, I thank Karen for her work, but Karen, it is council who has to make this decision. And whilst I accept that we need to understand what our community wants, and that's who we are here for, we also need to be courageous in our decision making and the direction forward. So I just urge you all to seriously think about this, get the piece of work that Karen has done, her team, and take it on board so those who are back can get up and running very quickly. Thank you.
Councillor Cookson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Karen, thank you for your report. For the new council, it's going to be interesting because we've gone through a couple of restructures as well in that time with ICM and finance and others. So it's going to be holding Chris accountable that those directorates now achieve what we want them to in that restructure in the next 18 months and 2 years to show that that restructure was worth doing. And the other, so that's not a question, it's just overview, but as a new council coming in, we've asked for that, and Chris has done that, assessed those directorates, and they've been restructured. So the other thing is with catchment restoration, I think the fragmentation of other groups out there, and myself and Pamela have talked about this in the past, we've got to bring them in more, that we're doing something strategically instead of fractionally. And I've like Dairy NZ and others that are getting central government money, we need to bring them in-house, that we do something strategic. And I think farm plans is a part of that as well, that we use, instead of farmers doing little catchment restoration bits on their own property, that the capital or the investment they're doing there actually goes into something greater that achieves something much more. I think in that space, we've got to do a lot more in the next 3 years to bring, that in, and that we have a total 30-year or 40-year outlook. Like if we want to do something on the Waikato, like Emily's been talking about for 20 years since I think she's been in that space, to do catchment restoration from Blue Springs to the Opal Springs, that's a 30 or 40-year project, and we need to get everybody in to do it over the, and so I look forward to the new council, and that's one of my projects that I'd like to see more catchment restoration on the Waihau, Piako and Waitoa rivers, but we've got to do it at a cost-effective and a model that ratepayers can afford. And I totally get what Chris was saying earlier about the $5. Where does the $5 come from? And that's from all the other external stakeholders, and that they do their free time and everything else, and like investments from corporates and everybody else to get to that $5. Totally get it, but there's a lot of work to do there, and I hope we can do a lot better in that space. That's just a point of view, so you don't have to answer it.
No, but thank you for your comments, because it's exactly what we're hearing from stakeholders around the region.
Councillor Downard.
Thanks, Karen, for a report. I'd like to see just one more step put into that timeline. Is that I'd like the new councillors that come into the new triennium, that they spend a day in this place by themselves, and just to get to know each other. We brought that up in the review, or I think I did, and I think that was an important thing that we kind of missed out in this triennium. And you obviously have some experienced councillors that come back and new councillors that come in, and I think we need a day to get to know each other all around this table, just the councillors that have been elected. And then, out of that, I'm sure there would become stuff that's from the councillors that have been here before, that could bring up stuff that they think is important. And then we could have a day after that, because I think we need 2 days where it's with staff and given a brief overview of what important things that are carried over. Because some things, being a first term councillor, a lot of things I didn't know until suddenly they came up 2 years later. Oh, I didn't know we were funding this or that was important. So I think it's a good time to brief all the new councillors or the existing councillors that come back on, you know, after we've got to May a day to get to know each other, and then the next day just to know what the important rollovers and, you know, especially what Rob said, you know, that's important, that could come up, because that could change our whole view on the strategic development for the long term and what's important to do first up. So that's just, I think it's important.
Madam Chair, if I could just comment on that. So we have heard that feedback from several councillors. And so I don't know, it's been sent out, Dave, but we are looking to see if we can program a new elected member only day very early on, as early as we can get it. I think the proposal at the moment is just to get everybody together, just so whoever gets selected can meet each other. There's probably a next thing where I just, and a few of us just need to give some time with yourselves just to give some high level things, and then probably have a schedule an elected member only day. It's not a big time between the declaration day where the results are finally known, which is I think Thursday the 16th, and you know, trap forward in days to the Wednesday the 29th, which is the first council meeting of the triennium, where you pick the chair and whatever. So we're trying to squeeze it in, but what we've also heard is executive, don't saturate people too much too early on, to give a bit more space for that thinking, I think, that you've asked about there. But we're definitely trying to schedule in a day where new elected members can spend time with each other.
Very good. I've got Councillor Dunbar-Smith, Kneebone, and then I need to wrap up. Councillor Dunbar-Smith.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to agree entirely with Councillor Noel Smith that I felt the last time you had new councillors, yes, but we had a kind of, I thought, a driven process in a particular direction. I remember the meeting at Geelong, which seemed confused, and then we had the meeting here where you had to put stickers on the board about what you were going to fund or not, or defund it. It would have been better to have a private meeting first and get to know the councillors and their thinking, or being locked straight into policy. I also concerned that the strategic process that we have is quite vague. I mean, they're vague things. I find that the CEO's KPIs are a much more effective driver of what we want done and what can be monitored. And then just slightly tongue-in-cheek question for the Chief Executive. I see the KPI not delivered is SIDF. Would he like to comment on that? We had a meeting earlier.
My comment that the whole point of the SIDF trial was to get some learnings. And I think the biggest learning was about what goes into KPIs and how they get written.
And they're still
Very
learning.
good. All right. Councillor Kneebone.
Firstly, I've got a deal for you. It's called the Waikato Waipa Restoration Strategy.
Yes.
I'm going to get Greg to print a copy out for you, and it's a really good blueprint for what you could probably, because it's probably due for an update. But
Well, Emily's already done one 10 years ago, by what I understand.
it's probably a bit different, I think, to the Waikato Waipa one. The Waikato Waipa one's much better.
With dairy added.
Are you biased?
Just noting Ben and Robbie's, your comments, Noel, and you that you've been conveying that for a while, but just want to understand, because to me this seems like a good approach, this plan that's going forward to do this stuff. Are you kind of happy that what's laid out here allows us to focus in on some of the stuff that you felt didn't go right properly last time? Because that's kind of what the intent of is.
Point is important that you almost need a meeting, and not just a 10-minute meeting of councillors. It's like a day set aside, maybe at Geelong or somewhere.
look, the foundation, and you just can't go from the wilderness and go in, 14 different directions.
No, I know, but what
I
Karen's
think,
asking for
I think
there
it's
is-
sound, but I think for me, the feeling that it was corralled and we went forward, and look, I bought into that. I look back and say to myself, yeah, you didn't do that well. And so this time round, I think Mikhail and a number of us, as Chris has said, have said that let's get to know each other a bit better. Let's get to know their aspirations and so on. And let's start to understand what it is that makes us tick. Because there will be new ones, there's going to be surprises. So let's just step back and say, okay, we've done this up to date. What is it that we need to take into consideration, and then work together to take it forward? And if it's more detail, as you've alluded to, Karen, it's just a little bit more for me. It's not drastically different, but it's just a little bit more before we get too far. Thanks.
Right, cool.
That's hugely helpful because that's exactly what staff would really appreciate from the council coming in. Time for you to get to know each other and agree what you could agree on, and then help us understand where we might have differences.
Yeah, it's on the same vein. I called Chris McClay a few days ago to give that same suggestion Mike raised. And I'll be emailing it through him shortly. I think one thing is that the desire for this time up alone is that the community voice comes through first before we become, because we're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed coming in, whether we're returning or not. But then when you get the top-down stuff of central government requires this, and these are our limitations or our spheres of influence, as well as these are our existing work streams, it really narrows the thinking. And so I think we want that creative time together. And the other point was it wouldn't hurt to schedule 2 days or at least 2 afternoons or so, because there's actually also another piece of work that's come up in council only time previously around having direction together, figured out informally first on how we operate, whether our videos are on or off when we're online, what calendars looks like, etc. And if we do that informally together, then we will probably give much better direction, because if we're sitting in this room and doing it kind of piecemeal, individual ideas get drowned quite quickly from the formality of how we sit. So I think it would be really great if the CE could get an appointment out, at least for 1 day, maybe 2, to the candidates as well as a placeholder, so that they don't miss out. And that's mainly it. Great. Of course, but it's always nice when it's very inclusive to come from here and to have the venue and the food, perhaps, to make it not a bit on an even keel. Yeah,
Great. I do want to move on.
Madam Chair,
All right.
the one thing I found very useful was when you had a table that said 25% cut, 10% cut, no cut, and then the legislation which we were mandated to deliver and how we had to deliver it, item 1 to 4. That was a PowerPoint presentation that was useful, but completely hard to follow at the time when you didn't know what you were doing. So, yeah.
All right. I think that there are, councillors, I'm encouraging you to take opportunities between now and the end of the triennium to feed through to Karen and to Chris, and also to Molly, in terms of what you think the scenario is, the setup, the structure that is going to get the best out of the new council and inform the decision making, because it is, as you've mentioned, it's quite a tight time frame, and it can be like drinking from a fire hose. So there is a natural tension in how much new information, understanding of the significance of the workload and the work programs that sit before Waikato Regional Council, as well as the legislative parameters that we operate under. So I encourage you to continue to feed those through, but we do have a structure that's before us, and I do really appreciate you taking us through the progress that we have made on that strategic direction. While there may be a few views around the table that it may or may not have hit the mark, when I tested it with counselors, must have been about 5 months ago, by and large, there was support for what was put forward, and there was note of the progress we have collectively made. So, well done. I've got mover and Counselor Nickel. Have we got that?
Happy to second if we don't have a second.
I've got a mover in Counselor Nickel and a second in Counselor Strange. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Now, we're going to next go back to item 7.4, but we are going to take a brief 10-minute break before we go back to 7.4. So we will adjourn the meeting. It's 10:47 point, sorry. No, we're going to go back to 7.4. Yeah. All right, so we'll adjourn the meeting. It's 10:49. We'll come back at 11 o'clock.